Hello, everybody. I'm going to just put some notes. Hello, everyone. Please. Hi, everybody. If you're here and listening, please put a message in the chat. I'd love to see who's here and say hi. We will get started in 2 minutes past the hour. And if you're going to be watching a replay, you can pretty much fast forward at least till, the 2-minute mark. Hi, John. Thanks for joining. We will start in a couple of minutes. Awesome. Thank you for coming in. I can see folks trickling in. So we will start in a couple of minutes as soon as I see this. So thank you. Hey, Alan. Hi, Adrian. Andy. I finally figured out how to use this new webinar while we're waiting. This new webinar tool, Webinar Ninja. So I'm hopefully better this time. We'll see if I fail somewhere with the Webinar Ninja software. So let me see. Awesome. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Warren. So, by the way, if you folks have any questions, you can utilize the question one and I'll try and get to them as well. This webinar, I think, will be interesting for all of you because it's something that I have learned that I need to pay attention to. And boy, it can get very complex real fast. So if you have any questions around your website and any analytics, drop them in the questions. I'll try as best as I can to answer. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've learned quite a few things as I've gone along. So here we go. Hey, Andy. Hi, Lo. Awesome. Hey, Ken from South Africa. Cool. So, all right. So it's 2 minutes past. I'm going to start, and I'm sure folks that will join and or something has come up, it's fine. Everybody's going to get a replay. So let me share my screen here. And let's see. Can you all see this? If you can just put in the chat, yay, nay. Perfect. Awesome. So, okay. Website analytics, right? What in the world is this, and why did I decide to do this? I want to help advisors be better, right, and serve more clients. And so, for my motivation, it's I've seen so many advisor websites, like thousands of them I've traversed, and there's some issues and challenges that I just see that it's like, okay, we need to make that better. Websites are, for a lack of better term, our storefront to the world now, right? And folks that come to our website, you need to know the analytics behind it to really be able to say, hey, how many visitors are we getting, right? Month over month. Is there been a decline there? What's going on? Where are they coming from, right? Do they, when they come to the website, do they actually stay? And are they engaged, or do they, just leave right away? And perhaps you can figure out, when there's more traffic on your site, you can kind of see a pattern over time and figure out when is the best time to start posting your blog content so that you can capitalize on things like that. These are everything that I've had to learn myself, similar to what you all will kind of get an idea here. And it's interesting. It's just a gold mine of data that's available. And so what I've done on this webinar, at least, is kind of highlighting some specific points that you should at least start getting a feel. If you've not looked at your website analytics, you should definitely have somebody, whoever is working on your website, put the Google Analytics code in so that you can start tracking a lot of this metrics that I'm going to show you right now, right? So let's say the first one is bounce rate. And I will show you the Google Analytics just in a minute, but I want to kind of explain this. When any visitor that comes to your website, whatever the page it may be, let's say it's your home page, they visit your page, and then they immediately leave to go to, Google or Twitter or wherever else, right? Well, that's according to Google. What they do is they apply a bounce rate. And so you want to know, hey, are people coming to our site only looking at one page, wherever they landed? It could be your blog. It could be, because you put up a blog content and you have the blog page. So when they click it, that's the page. Or it's your homepage if they're typing in via or searching via Google and they land on your Google homepage. Are they going in to any other pages of your site, or are they just leaving, right? If they're just leaving, that obviously is a problem. And so I wanted to kind of show you my numbers here and share with you what I have been learning and doing. Now, remember, my market, right? My customers, quote unquote, are you, all the financial advisors, since we have a software for financial advisors. I've been working hard in changing messaging and trying to analyze all of this. So with that, I am going to actually minimize this and hang on and jump over to the analytics here. So hang on. So this is Google Analytics for those of you that don't know. And I'm right now on the home page, and this is some of the details it shows. So right now it's showing I don't have any users on our site at this very second, right, as we're speaking through. But when I go through, I'm going to look at some overview of my audience. And this is really what I wanted to share with you. So this, I have put a date filter here. So this is beginning of this year to now, right? March 29th, or actually yesterday. And you can see from a chart the number of visitors that are coming in, right, on a daily basis. Now, some days, of course, is going to go down, and generally those are Saturdays, Sundays. What you want to look at on your site is kind of see, right, hey, how is this doing? And then you can see I have a steep jump up. Now, this is interesting because looking at that, you want to try and figure out, hey, where did all of a sudden I'm averaging right under 200, or I don't know what the number is here, but why all of a sudden the spike is happening? Well, in our case, it's because a broker dealer is approving us, and so now all of those advisors are starting to come to our site and looking at it, right? But this is a key indication for you if you're putting out a blog content, right? Or you're putting out, if you're doing advertising, to kind of see, is your audience going up, right? Now, that's one element. But then the next element is, hey, are they staying or not? And so if you look here, there's this bounce rate. And in my case, it's 65% for this time frame. And what that means is basically out of every 100 visitors, 65 just leave after visiting whatever page they're looking at. It could be a blog page, it could be my main home page, it could be our pricing page, it could be whatever Google pulled up and they clicked that first one, right? And so my numbers used to be 95, 99%. That's pretty bad. And so I started studying and figuring out what I need to do to bring that number down. Because you want it, obviously, anybody that's visiting your site, you want them to stay, right? And go to check out other pages and what have you. You're putting in that effort and you want to deliver that value. So, hey, they should be able to stay. But this is a good indication of saying, wait a minute, something's not right with the site or the messaging that you may have on your pages. So when mine was around 99, 95, I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? I started changing my messaging. And my messaging has changed on the website, especially the homepage. It has changed, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times over the past year alone, maybe, right? And this is just because I continuously iterate and try and see. I'm trying to get to the 65% down to less than 50% so that people are coming. Well, this is one way of looking at it, right? If I jump back over, the question is like, what's a good rate? And so I found this online, and for my type of site, which would be considered a business to business website, they're saying 25 to 55% is a good way. For all of you who are financial advisors, right? You could fall under the non-commerce, non-e-commerce or lead gen, but you can see basically that you want to be below 60% across. Your blogs, even our blogs, no matter what, are going to have a high bounce rate. And I was fretting about this before a lot, and I realized, hey, actually, that's the whole purpose. When they come to your blog, they read it, and they've taken that information, digested that, and maybe they'll come back later, right? So blogs typically, as you can see, have a very high bounce rate. I still would want them to click somewhere else and interact with the website, but that's kind of where things are at. So give me 1 second and I want to make sure. Oh, sorry, if you're hearing my birds, they decided to wake up, I guess. So Maria is just telling me that, and let me make sure. So, okay. So I apologize for our little parakeets, deciding to start singing right about now. So this is kind of the average on the good rate. You want to try and obviously get it below 90% and closer to maybe 60 and what have you. Now, is bounce rate a good indication? It's not actually, because in my case specifically, and most likely all of your cases, you probably will have on the website a login button, right? Or the client's portal login. In my case, there's a login button for us as well. So a lot of our advisors that are using Pulse 360, they will type in pulse360.com and go and press that login button. Well, Google treats that as a bounce. So I recently learned that, oh, great. All these statistics I've been working hard at, I've actually got a login button. So what I'm now doing is I'm going to get a different bounce rate number specifically formulated for me to say, ignore anybody that's coming and just clicking login page and going away. because they're just existing users. I just want to focus on. So I don't have that because I just learned this week that I need to go fix that. So sessions are something more important, I feel. What are sessions? So sessions are, if you go to my website today, pulse360.com, let's say, and that starts your first session. And so now for you, the important part will be, how long are they staying on the site, right? Are they staying longer? And if that's the case, maybe they're on one page, but they're reading everything that you've got. So that's an important metric to kind of look at. And then the next one I have here, pages per session. And I'll jump into Google Analytics here in a minute. But pages per session is where they now, in this session they started, they're going through different pages. So the more pages they explore, the more enjoyable your website is, the more value they're getting, because they're obviously going and checking out maybe your About Us page or your fee structure pages or your services pages and things of that sort. So I'm going to jump over and go again into my world so you can actually see. So right from this same screen that we had, I can see two data points: pages per session and average session duration. Let's talk about the time first. So you can see visitors that are coming on average are spending about a minute and 40 seconds. This is mind blowing. And when you start looking into each page, you'll start seeing people just leave in like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 20 seconds, right? What that tells us and tells you is, yeah, we like to jam pack a bunch of information on our pages. Well, guess what? They're not reading all of that, they're scanning. And so that's an important element for you to think about when you design your pages. And this is something that I've been going on. And in fact, let me pull up Pulse 360 so you'll kind of see it, what I mean. This is an iteration of my page that I've now done multiple times over. And the key lessons I've learned is, you want these big headers and big images because people are just scanning. And I've put these buttons, schedule and write here for me. So immediately it's these are called call to action buttons. So I can just put it right in front, like, this is what I want you to do, right? Because they're not also, by the way, scrolling down. There's a whole heat map that can show that as well. But literally they're going to go like this, and this is what they're doing. You can't catch. Now, I've spent a ton of effort trying to do all of this, but this is too much. I'm realizing, hey, people are not really digesting all of this. Now, saying all of that, there's two buckets you have to think through. One, in your case, as advisors, you'll have consumers just coming, right, looking at it, and maybe they're not your ideal consumer type anyways. And so you can look at the demographic data you get to say, oh, I'm getting 18 to 20-year-olds, and maybe you're really helping 50 to 55, right, and upwards. So you can then dissect the data to say, okay, I got the session average and it's pretty bad. I got the bounce rate, it's not great. But let me go into my own demographics, and I'll show you that in a minute, and see, hey, are these people staying around? If they are, don't make the change to your website, because obviously there's some value there. But if every one of those age bands is just leaving, you need to look at your website and fix. Now, let me go back into here and make sure. Maria, just on Slack, if you can message me, because I have that up. So if there's anything that I need to know, so appreciate that. And let me go back and pull this up. Now, I was mentioning about the session time. That's one. And then pages per session. You can see on my average for this January to March, literally we're not even hitting 2 pages for most folks, right? Now, in my case, it could be because I have a lot of folks that are just logging in. So they're just leaving. They don't need to look at anything else. So that's something that I need to now split so that I get better data for myself, right? Now, the demographic, if you look on the Google Analytics on the audience, I can go to demographics and say age. And now, so this gives you a breakdown by age type. And so you could really digest this and say, you know what? I don't really care for people who are under a certain age, right? That's not my market. So I don't need to worry about it. Like maybe 18 to 24, maybe not. So I can ignore all of that data. But hey, 55 to 65, 64-year olds, yeah, I want to look at that data. And you can now see in a tabular format, like the number of users that came in, how many new users were there. And so this is in this period, there were 210 users who came in between that age. And then how many sessions? So sometimes these folks will come back, and that's another session for them. And now you can see my number for bounce rate for that age group, in my case, is 50%, which is awesome, right? Those are advisors that, want to look at how to systematize. And maybe the 18 to 24-year-olds are looking at different technologies, and, that's why they're bouncing, right? This is some of these things you need to evaluate. You can see 55 to 64, I've got 2 pages per session here. I've crossed that boundary. Yay. And I know what those 2 pages are. I'll explain that too in a minute. And you can see they're spending more time, 2 minutes and 17 on the page. So this type of data, you should be looking at your website, at least quarterly if you can. I'm doing it pretty much on a monthly basis because I need to kind of continue to iterate what that looks like, right? Now, let me go back here into my demo here. And so we've talked about these two, right? The sessions and pages. The next is which pages are being visited, right? Is it just the blogs? Is it the pricing page? Is it the About Us page? Where are people going, right? So let's look at that for Pulse 360 as well, so you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to make this as an audience there, and I'm going to go into something called behavior. And on the behavior, I have this site content, and now I can say, show me all my pages. And so this data now is being pulled together and sorted here by this page views of, hey, which is the most important page? Naturally, in my case, it's the home page. If you're doing ads, right, this could be something that you come and say, if the ad has a link to either the home page or an entirely different page you've created, you can see if that is working. Like, are you getting the users there? So this is mine. I'm getting obviously a substantial portion right here. As you know, I mentioned before, people are coming in here and just linking away to login sites. So I have a little bit of a data cleanup that I need to do. But the next important page is pricing, right? And now you can see if I look at pricing and say, hey, on my pricing page, which if I go up here right now, you'll see it's pretty bare bones. Like, it's just very simple table, right? So now I know there's not much content here as much, right? So I'm going to look at that and say, okay, people are spending about almost close to 2 minutes. There's about 300, folks that have come into this page from other areas, and there is a 60%, 65% breakaway, right? So again, people are coming and leaving and not necessarily signing up or going to another page. Now, the page value, that's determined by Google, where it won't necessarily apply to all of us because it's more for the e-commerce sites where you're doing shopping and what have you. So I don't even pay attention to the page value. But you can now start seeing, okay, these are my pages that are important. In my case, the next third one is client review prep. So for me, if I know people are going into that, I want to make sure that that page is also attracting and keeping. But you can see 83% of the people are just leaving. I have some work to do on this page, right? I need to go maybe change it up and maybe reduce it, the word count or what have you. So Now, let's jump back over into mine. So that's kind of how you can look at, the pages that are more popular on your website. Sometimes you may create a blog page or another web page, and you think it's going to be the best thing. Well, put it against the test and see how it's performing. Maybe you don't have the link clearly somewhere if they're not going to that page, right? So you need to look at that as well. And then the other part is, let's track some numbers for how many people are actually scheduling demos, or in your case, appointments with you, or filling out the contact us form, for example, or downloading maybe if you have like a lead magnet on your website. How do you track those? Right. In my case, I have a schedule, as you saw, schedule a demo, right? So let's walk through basically that and kind of show you. Now, for this, because it's going to show my metrics and my numbers, I'm going to use a sample database. So we're going to use Google makes a sample available. It's their own Google Merchandise Store analytics. So this is what you're looking at their data. But basically, you can go to something called conversions, and you can see the goals. And now you can click overview. And what you can do is you can now see, oh, you had set up a goal. Let's say anybody on my website, for example, I have a goal. If anybody clicks this schedule button, then it triggers like, hey, one click for this, for example. So Google obviously has some completion metrics. And now you can see that how many people that came to, and only 23% of them actually clicked whatever Google had put on, right? So if we were to overlay this with mine, let's just say this is mine. Oh, out of 100 visitors, only 23 have actually pressed that scheduled button. Maybe I need to move it around so that I can increase that, right? And then you can see abandonment, right? So people leaving. Now, Google has obviously a merchandise store, so it won't apply to us necessarily, but you can kind of start looking at this and understanding what's happening. And then each goal, you can have multiple goals for a website. So on mine, if I go back to our website, if I go back to our homepage, I have a tracker for scheduling. So I know when somebody clicks a scheduling, then it goes and counts that up. If it's right for me, and then if it's on pricing page, how many people actually click this button to start the trial, or this button, or this button. And, or I have another one here for enterprise, for example. And so I want to be able to see, hey, are people actually engaging and clicking, and what does that mean for me in terms of, leads or what have you being generated. So I want to just pause right here, and I want to see if there's any questions. So I want to kind of see if there's any questions that have come in. There have not, but if you want to put it in the chat, I can go in there and look at that. But I'll continue since I don't see any questions. If they do, I will jump over there. But I guess tell me in the chat, is this helpful kind of way of looking at this, right? I am in the same boat as you all are. We're business owners. We're just trying to, we're spending money on marketing on the website and whatnot. And how do we kind of look at this? So thank you, Lori. Now, let me go back into this. So goal conversion tracking. And this is some of these things. Obviously, this is not meant for me to show you how to do these things. I'm not in that business. I'm just doing this for my side. You can probably go on Upwork or Fiverr and maybe even whoever put your website together to say, hey, I need goal tracking on my contact us button or my schedule button, for example, so that you start getting this, right? Now, let's go into something else. Something called attribution. Let me explain what this means. We all know we're all sharing links either in an email or a blog post that we put on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. And you want to know, hey, are those working for you? How do you know where this is coming from? So what you can create is when you share your link with anybody, you can add some code in there that will then come back into Google Analytics and check that box off that, yep, I posted a link on Twitter, let's say, and now I can see Twitter traffic coming and how much. Let's look at that for our website. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to go into acquisition. So these are, by the way, we've just kind of walked through 4 of these, right? So we're now going to go into acquisition because this is when people are coming in. So I want to look at all my traffic, and then I want to look at my channels. So if I click channels, and so now here for the same time frame that we've been looking, you can see where my traffic has been coming from. Direct usually means people have saved it as a bookmark, or they're typing in Pulse 360 in my case and going directly there. Organic search is exactly what that says, which is somebody Googled either you or something around you and now have found your site and are coming. So you can kind of start looking at this and saying, okay, 40% of my traffic is just typing in post360.com. That's probably our existing users, right? I don't know. I can't tell for sure because maybe you had a visit and you just know our site. Organic search. So for us, because we have a tool that's not a CRM, not an investment tool, we're trying to make our language in our website so that you can find us in organically when you type in practice management or how do I automate and streamline. So that's kind of, I did a paid search experiment. I think I stopped it, but I think I ran it for the last 3 months, maybe, or 4 months. And I'm just testing, right? Just to see. These are small ads, maybe $5 or $10 a day. I forget. So, very small amount because I want to test and see what's happening, right? So if you're doing paid advertising, this would be a key thing for you to come and look and say, holy cow, you're doing advertising, but 80% of the people are leaving. What's the problem? Well, one could be the wrong age demographic is clicking on that link. They saw the ad. Or sometimes the ad wording is not pertaining to what I was really looking for, and so they're going to leave. So you kind of do need to do a little bit of a check. And you can see 33 seconds. I mean, that's just amazing, isn't it? That people just leave in 33 seconds. So referrals are sometimes, like, for example, if my link is put in, like Michael Kitsis has, written about us a few times, and he puts, Pulse 360 in his blogs. So whenever you read that blog and you click that then comes back and counts as a referral for me. So I can see there's not a compensation piece here whatsoever. This is just Google Analytics doing this. I'm not paying Michael. Michael's not, obviously doing any of that either. But this just shows you, oh, I put a website link. Let's say you put a NAPFA link, for example, for you, right? Or ACP or CFP board. And so now you can see, oh, these links, that's where the traffic is coming from. And maybe that's what I need to look at maybe more, right? Email, this is just in my emails, my marketing emails that go out. Sometimes people will click that. You can see the social right there, which are the different social channels. If I click the source, you can now get a little bit more detail. So you can see from Google, this is our marketing campaign. You can see Michael's right here, of course, right? Facebook, which is probably an ad I did. And then Meet Edgar is our social media posting. So some of them were using that link. So you can start getting all of this granular data for yourself. And I think it's very important that you pay attention to some of these things because you need to know what you're doing, right? Campaigns, and I'll just jump over because it all ties together. I'll go to, hang on, all campaigns. So these are some of the advertising that we did, right? And we're just testing how it's going. And we put different blogs and whatnot and kind of getting an idea of what's happening. Pretty bad on some of these, like the Meet Edgar, it's 92% people leaving. So we need to get very, very fine-tuned on our messaging. And that's something that I consistently work on, all the time. Now, something else you need to know from an acquisition perspective is there's something called Google Search Console. And what that does, it gives you a kind of a view of what people are typing in Google and how they're finding you. So under Search Console, I can come in and say, what are some of the queries? And you can see here a list of what people are typing in Google and finding us. Naturally, for us, is Post 360, as you can see, 360 plus, Cloud Post 360, Post 360 pricing. What I can do with this is monitor this and make sure that Google knows my page is relevant to that. So let's look at this one, number 8, annual client review. Well, at least 2 people have typed that over the past, I don't know, I think this was since beginning of this year, right? Well, if that's important, let's say this number was a lot bigger, I can make sure my page that relates to that really makes sense for folks, right? Redtail CRM, Wealthbox reviews. I guess we are popping up because we integrate with Redtail and Wealthbox, which is great because we need exposure so people know about us, right? And so this is a way to you can kind of quickly see, and of course you can continue going more, and you can kind of see how people are looking for us and whatnot, right? So with that, I'm going to jump back over. And so the attribution is very, very important. And let me show you kind of how this works. So I have a page here, and I'll share this. You could actually just Google basically URL builder. And what it does is it allows you to put some data points. So I'm going to walk through as an example. So let's say our website is pro360.com. So that's that. I could say, hey, you know what? There's some campaign ID. I'm not going to do that, but campaign source means, hey, where is this for me? Where am I going to put this, or what's the source of this whole campaign? So let's just say I want to do, annual summary. Oops. And then let's say medium is, where am I going to post this? So let's say I'm going to put it on Facebook. So I'll put FB for it. And then campaign name, I could just go back and just say, hey, annual summary. What this is now doing, I got to type in my full HTTPS. What it did is it created this link right here. And let me copy this and I'll paste it in my PowerPoint so we can make it bigger right here. So hang on, so you can all see. So my website is right there. And then Google added, because I typed in, it's an annual summary. And then the medium, it's Facebook. And then here's again my campaign. This is how the whole attribution system can start working for you. If you're not doing this when you're pasting links in your newsletter or somewhere else, you should really consider it, because later you can dissect, hey, my annual summary, that was a very successful post. Okay, let's focus more energy on that. Oh, I also did, let's say in an advisor's case, let's say you do 529 education blog post, right? And that's all about that. And you start doing ads and or posting different places. You put in 529 here, you post it, and then you monitor. If you're not getting any traffic, that just means, one, there's not interest. If you're getting traffic, and if the people are leaving 80% of the time, now you know, hey, maybe 529 is not that hot of a topic. Let's iterate or maybe change my graphics and what have you. This is quite a bit, and I get it. It's almost like we all need our own entire marketing department for this, right? But you should be able to ask these type of questions to whoever's designed your website or whoever's doing your marketing. At least start getting a handle on this, right? Now, I want to share some of the tools with you. I've used Google Analytics for us. I know most folks, a lot of folks are concerned about Google and privacy and what have you. So I did find another alternative, which is Fathom. It is a paid product versus Google Analytics is completely free, but you could go and check out Fathom and start using that if you'd like. However, I will say the um, the amount of data that Google has about the age demographics, right? Where they're coming from, device. I mean, it's substantial amount of data that you could potentially use. Nothing is identified, right? I don't know if, Maria from my team is visiting our site and just clicking something all day. I have no idea. But you can start looking at this that way. So when you look at other alternatives, consider and make sure you research like, hey, do they have the similar data set to be able to kind of fine tune some of this when you need to get there. The other tool I use is something called Google Tag Manager. And what that does is those buttons I have created that I was tracking when somebody clicks, I apply a tag behind it. And then I tell Google Analytics that if that tag was clicked, then mark that as 1 for me, for example. And then Google Search Console. Google Search Console is just your website. You put it in, and then you're telling Google that we exist, even though Google goes out and looks for you anyways. But by doing Google Search Console, you're telling Google specifically, you exist, what's your website, and you give it time for it to go and look at your website and index it for themselves, right? So it's just a great tool for that purpose. So with that, I want to kind of ask questions here. I've been just going and seeing if there's any questions, but please ask any questions you may have. And I'm going to monitor this. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. There we go. So, are there any questions? Nope. Hopefully this was helpful. So what are some of your best resources for learning about this for a real beginner? Yeah, I literally watch YouTube videos and figured out that I need to look at it. But the only way I learned how to do this, Adrian, is because I was like, put up my website, make changes, and then I wasn't getting any scheduled. Like nobody was clicking. And that made me think like, okay, I need to look at what's going on. And when I started digging into Google Analytics, that's when I started learning. And then, of course, the question becomes, hey, what's a bounce rate? And then I go watch YouTube videos around what's a bounce rate. And then I learned I got to this point because of that. So hopefully that helps, right? Or you find somebody, who's doing your website and you just say, hey, I want to know how many people are bouncing, what's my average time people are spending, how many pages are they visiting, what's the most popular page, right? Just give them that data point and they got to go get that back for you, right? And I feel like many of us as advisors, well, I'm not an advisor anymore, but I've seen so many websites that I just know people are not even scrolling. They're not even looking at this because it's just so much words going on, and you need to look at that. Website is your storefront. So, okay. So if there's no other questions, we'll keep this one short, but I'll wait for one more minute for anybody else. But I hope this was helpful. You will all get replays of this automatically, so you can watch it and get those questions and what have you. So, yeah, of course. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Seems like there's no other questions. So thank you again, and we'll catch you later. Take care.